and not burden or trouble anyone else. Well, that's all wonderful, well and good until you get into a place that's unprecedented and you've never dealt with this before. And so on that note, let's transition. So speaking of life transitions and such, I went through an experience, and those of you guys who have taken my Focus Mastery and Breakthrough Life Coach certification course have heard this story. But I was going through a period where I was the sole support for my brother who was going through cancer treatments and my mom who had dementia. And if it were not for, first of all, my husband, there's no way I would have been able to handle that. I mean, literally, we had to take over a year off from work because it was all in 24/7 on call all the time. So on top of making life or death situations, expecting a phone call at any hour of the day, I had all kinds of physical things that happened in my body. So I was just a mess for the longest time, and I just didn't know what to do or how I was going to get past all of that, because I had never been in a situation like that in my life. So first and foremost, I actually let my husband be a part of that support team. But he also had never been through anything like that. And it was too much for any one person to weather. So one of the things I also talk about in multiple courses is this idea of a moai, to have a support group of at least 5 people, so that you're not putting everything all onto one person. So that person can get a break to be able to step away and breathe. So there's a tag team person that can help you out. But this was also a time in my life when I discovered that when it's big and it's crazy and it's beyond anything that you're used to, it is okay to ask for help. And so in addition to my moai, I also reached out to other people who were part of I call them my wellness team, and that it was okay to reach out for counseling or for medical help or for nutritional help or any of that. And boy, am I glad that I got over myself and let myself do that, because it took the burden off of him so that he could then be a husband to his wife. And yes, it is wonderful to have friends that can offer thoughts and ideas and advice, but our spouse, our friends, and our families are not therapists. When people who are trained professionals who have been there, done that, seen this stuff, get involved, they can give support and guidance in a way that is beyond what your spouse, your friends, and your family can provide. Because they also can approach you from a more detached place. And they're not in your life 24/7 and not vested in that way to where they get so emotionally involved, and attachment can come in rather than operating from that elevated place of love. So any of you guys that have been through anything extreme or are currently in a situation, in addition to trusting your partner to be real with them, in addition to cultivating really close relationships and friendships, please know it is okay to reach out for additional help when you need it. Because that was a huge game changer for me. And when it comes to any of either of you experiencing physical challenges, health-related challenges, that's a tough one, because you want to see your sweetheart thrive.
Right.
At any given moment. You want to see them smiling, laughing, thriving. But when that person is in that moment, of course, doing whatever you can to support them is awesome. But what we've discovered is a lot of times the best way to support that person once you know that they're safe and they're okay, is to actually step away.
Yeah.
So tell them a little bit about like when I was going through the physical stuff, especially, and kind of what you did when you stepped away to help me to kind of find my, using law of attraction, using your focus to help me kind of find my way.
Well, a lot of the stuff that required my input or whatever, with her not feeling well, if it was an emotional, outburst, and she just, sometimes you just need to cry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can't help her cry. I mean, I guess I could. I was like, oh, there you go. Get those tears
Get it out. Come on.
You can do. But seriously, it's not doing me any good to see the love of my life crying. I'm not happy about that. But I understand that it's necessary sometimes. And so my best thing to do at that moment is to go away. Go, do something in the studio, or if I needed to go to the store or whatever.
But in the moment, while it was happening, if I needed a hug, if I needed him to be there with me, he was there.
If all I could do was to sit beside her in silence, and she felt better by it, I would do it. It's that's a no-brainer, really. Anybody you care about, you're going to do whatever you can. And during that time, if you were upset and I couldn't do anything, but you wanted me to be there, then that was cool. But if you didn't really know what you wanted or whatever.
Or like when physical stuff was happening, I already had whatever medicine or whatever I could physically get my hands on to help myself feel better, and there was nothing more to do, then
I would, maybe I'd set you up on the couch, have the TV on or whatever, sit there, hold your hand, and, just sit there with you until you fell asleep. And then once you fell asleep, I knew that you were, because you were so exhausted from all of the things, both mental and physical, that you would be asleep for a while. And then I would go take care of whatever else was necessary to be taken care of, because obviously there's still a household to run. So. But
one of the things that, because you were starting to talk about when it's time to step away,
right.
One of the things that I am so deeply appreciative of is he was able to hold the vision of who I really am. And I think maybe that's where you were starting to go before I interrupted you.
Yeah, well,
we do that a lot.
I interrupt myself most of the time. And then I go, I don't know what I was talking about. Anyway, in this case, the idea of that so many things, it doesn't matter what it is that's ever been wrong with either one of us, we've always gotten through it.
Yes.
Whether it be, whether you want to chalk it up to a higher power taking over and doing things and making you feel better or whatever, we came through on the other end better. When you're going through it at the time, though, it doesn't seem like it's ever going to end. And having your other person that's there with you saying, honey, it's going to be okay, I promise. You've done this before. You've been through it before. You've always come out the other end okay. And even if that just does the slightest little bit of making her feel a little bit better, if it causes her to relax just enough that she drifts off into sleep, then she can actually let her body and her mind both reset. Because all I did was, as she was saying, hold the higher ground. Because I know that she's coming through it. Everything, all the time, anytime that there's been a problem, she's taken the time and slept or whatever needed to be done and come out the other end going, I feel more like me today. And My response at that time is, I'm so glad. I am so very glad. Both because I'm just glad that my wife is feeling better, and I'm glad that I feel like I may have helped by helping her know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train.
Yeah, exactly. And on my side, when my honey has had some experiences that is like, oh no, I don't, as you guys know, when you love someone, you don't want to ever see them in pain in any way, shape, or form. And what I've typically done is, once I've made sure he has what he needs and he's safe and he's okay and whatever, is I then step away to do whatever I can to raise my vibration. Because looking at him in a state of pain, looking right at him in that moment, it is to hold the vibration of his total well-being while observing him in a moment of extreme pain. Those vibrations are way too far apart.
True.
This is probably a better illustration to be able to affect any kind of positive change. So because my vibration is really more about what I'm observing in the moment. So what I've done when I've seen him in those moments is, once I have an opportunity to step away and do something that helps me to raise my vibration. And for me, getting outside, being in nature, physically moving my body, getting some exercise especially, has, I would say, almost 100% helped to raise my vibration, at least to some extent. Just because sitting at home and watching someone standing there watching the suffering show, it benefits no one. Of course, again, you're going to make sure they have what they need and that they're okay. And if he needs me to sit there and hold his hand or to hug him, I'm there. That's happening. But when I know for sure that I've done all that I can, I go for my little walks. I raise my vibration. And as soon as I start feeling a little lighter, then I start to picture him smiling, laughing. And one of the things that he does is so cute. When it gets cold outside,
Oh gosh.
is he runs around in circles like a little Siberian husky. It's the cutest thing. So one of the things I do when I'm just in that visioning process, that I've raised my vibration enough to where I can go there, is I see my honey smiling, laughing, and running his little laps.
Around her.
All right, yes, he'll run a little circle around me. He's like, woohoo, this is great. And it's so beautiful, because as soon as he goes to sleep, he takes a nap, or he watches a show, or he does something that raises his vibration, just like we talked about a little earlier.
Take your thoughts off of what feels so terrible.
Yes.
For a minute.
Yes.
And it just helps so much.
Then all those good vibes and good thoughts get to sneak on in there. It's really cool. And I'll also tell a short version of a story with my mom. So during my journey with my mom, when her brain changed, her personality changed, and it literally was toxic being in 3D with her, I had to love her from a distance. And one of the things that I started doing was I would light a candle every night before I went to sleep. And even though she wasn't physically in a space where she could hear me say, I love you, she would, I would light that candle and I would close my eyes and I would say, I love you, Mom. I always have. I always will. And that will never change. And whatever you need to do to move forward to your experience of greatest well-being, I support you. So even though I couldn't talk to her in person, I still would take that time, light that candle, and send that love to her. And I did this consistently for about a month. And out of nowhere, I got a phone call from her one day. And there was a voicemail that it sounded like her. It was my actual mom, the bright, shiny, beautiful, incredible human being who raised me, who loved me. Something happened that she found her way to herself for a moment. So I called her back. We had this beautiful, incredible healing conversation. And 2 weeks after that is when she passed of COVID. But how cool was that to see that all of those moments invested in focusing on her. And when I would speak those words, I would also, like I was talking about with John, I would see my mom smiling, laughing, romping around Disney World because that was her favorite place in the whole world. And somehow when she had a moment of non-resistance, that love got in through the cracks. So anytime you want to uplift another human being, and you can't really do it in the moment while stuff is happening, step away, do something to raise your vibration and focus on them in a state of love. And as soon as they drop their resistance, it is incredible what can happen. That's what John did for me when I needed it. It's what I've done for him when he's needed it. And we all have received that love at the time we were ready for it, which is so beautiful.
You won't be able to accept it or take it. Anybody wouldn't be able to if they're not ready for it.
Yes.
But when they're ready, if you outside of them have prepared and you've got it all sitting there waiting to push through those those doors when the doors open, then as soon as the door opens, it all goes through, and all that love that's been being stored up is suddenly, boom, inside.
So speaking of support and love,
Excuse me.
in September of this year, I was offered an incredible gift by one of my best friends. To make a very long story short, I was gifted a trip to Romania. And I would also have the opportunity to be a co-presenter at a beautiful retreat created by another one of my best friends for her company, Satori Romania. But there was one catch. I couldn't bring my husband, and I would be gone for almost 3 weeks. And the thought of going to Europe without my husband to me and being gone that long, I was really hesitant with saying yes. But when I shared this with him,
I couldn't see how she could say no. And that's basically what I told her, is like, you'd be crazy to let this opportunity pass you by. And to be away from me for 3 weeks, it's 3 weeks. And it's not like we're not going to talk. You know, we ended up talking at least once a day, through the miracle of technology and the ability to have free conversations. But regardless, it just, you would be crazy to let that go by. And I'm certainly not going to say, you need to stay here and take care of me. That's just silly.
We've never had that. Yeah. We're very untraditional in a lot of ways, so to speak.
But I encouraged her flat out, full on. I didn't encourage her. I kind of told her, you have to do this.
Yeah.
Go, have fun, learn stuff, enjoy, bring your brilliance to another part of the world, because she was going to get to present as well. So I don't know. I didn't see how there was any other way other than, yes, you go.
So talk about feeling supported. And it's really cool because throughout our relationship together, I mean, before we even met, I was very independent and still am. That I allow time to be in my own company every day, that I have time to myself. once a week, I take a little excursion out and about by myself. And of course, I also have time with friends and such. And it's so beautiful because even though there have been stretches of time to where we are with each other literally all day long with just little breaks here and there for John to go up and work on his thing, me to go up and work on my thing. And especially when we've been in an RV together, you know, where you're all in with each other. Honestly, I have never had that feeling like, get the hell away from me. I genuinely enjoy his company every single day. But I know in order to be a whole, healthy person and a great partner for him, that I need to cultivate my relationship with me. And that was something I did before we got together when we were only friends. It was something I did when we started dating. And it's something that I have done from the moment we got married. That has never changed. And he has supported that from then to now and always will. And to know that he supports my continual growth as a human being, that sense of personal freedom, that even though we're married and in a committed relationship, monogamous relationship, because that's our choice, I feel this beautiful, like, to have this deep connection with another human being that I would trust with my life, that I trust with every part of me. We don't have secrets. We don't have bullshit. We don't hide anything from each other. That's how we started. That's how we are. That's how we will always be. But the fact that I also feel this sense of total personal freedom to follow my natural rhythms, to do what I'm being called to do at any given moment is such an incredible gift. And I think for me, that's why I've been ridiculously happy with you for over 2 decades, because it's just so natural. It's not like, for me, our relationship, life can be hard. Our relationship has never felt hard, ever, ever.
It's got to be easy. I'm too lazy to do something hard.
But the hard experiences where, you know, seeing the one that you love being out of alignment, that's the hard part.
But that's only temporary.
Yes.
You know that it's temporary, that there's going to be an end point in sight, and that you're going to be there in no time. Sometimes it takes hours only. Not even hours sometimes, but say it takes only hours to suddenly feel better. Before that, at the time, it looked like it was going to take weeks or months or years.
Yeah.
And then here you are 6 hours later going, wow, well, what was all that about back there?
Yeah.
You know?
It's crazy. It's amazing. So, all right. So we have already talked about family stuff. We've talked about how we've handled life transition. We've talked about what's happened when there's been health-related stuff that either one of us have experienced. We've talked about being apart for a longer period of time.
She's the organized one. She remembers all this.
Well, I create courses for you guys, so I kind of have to do it in a way so that it makes sense. Because if I just become little hummingbird on crack, then you'll be like, what? So here's another subject that a lot of couples run into: money. Dun, dun, dun.